Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going to start off on our Ontario Teachers Try Coding Studio in Scratch, and you'll see this is a place where people can share projects that they've made. And I shared a project about a week ago called Dance Party, and I encouraged everyone to remix it. So remixing is taking somebody else's project and tweaking their code. And that's important in our new curriculum because there are two coding expectations. The first one's all about creating your own code, but the second one is about understanding someone else's code, making changes to it, and then understanding how those changes impact what happens. So I wanted to try that. So you'll see here is my project, and it says, what do you notice about Scratch the Cat and what do you wonder? You should see appear a remix button. Because this is my own project, I don't actually see that, but you will. If you hit remix on someone else's project, you get your very own copy of the code that you can play around with and adjust and see what happens, which is great. And it doesn't impact that original creator's project at all. So feel free to do whatever you like. If you haven't had a chance to do that with this project yet, I suggest you pause this video and go give it a try. See if you can figure out what my code does, make some changes to it to see how that impacts it. All right, did you go try it? Welcome back. I wanted to take a moment to walk you through my code and what I did. You'll notice that there's 3 when the green flag is clicked sections. So those 3 things are going to happen concurrently, grade 2 expectation, when I hit the green flag. You'll also notice there's a whole bunch of when the something key is pressed buttons. Again, those are all happening concurrently. So let's just play it and I'll give a little demonstration of what it does. So you'll notice right now this section of code, actually all of these sections of code are kind of highlighted in yellow a bit. That's because they're currently active, they're currently happening. So the very first thing, turn that off for a second, that happens is I set the tempo to 60. I'm assuming that's beats per minute, but I'm not 100% sure. And then right here, there are a bunch of drum beats and rests, and that creates that background beat that you hear. Down here, this section of code controls what Scratch the Cat says when the program first starts. So it's just some instructions to the user. And then lastly, this is the part that gets a little bit more complicated. Well, actually, a lot more complicated, but I'll explain it. When the green flag is clicked, I'm hiding the variable dance speed, setting the variable of dance speed to 0.47. And then forever in a loop, Scratch the Cat keeps changing his costume and then waiting for dance speed's seconds before changing it again. So the reason why I did it that way, rather than just having him change the costume, is I wanted this part to work. So when you press the up arrow on your keyboard, you increase the tempo of the beat. But not only that, you change the dance speed variable by a little bit. And the opposite happens when you hit the down arrow. So what I wanted to have happen is for Scratch to dance faster or slower depending on how fast or slow the beat of the song was going. So when I hit my green flag and I hit the up arrow, you'll hear it get slightly faster, and if you watch Scratch's feet, he goes slightly faster too. And the opposite is true. When I hit down, the song slows down and Scratch moves slower. So I've introduced a new concept here, and that's the concept of using a variable. A variable is a set amount. It can be a number. In other cases, it can be words. Variables can be almost anything. But essentially, it's kind of like a bucket. A variable kind of holds something in a bucket, but it doesn't have to stay the same throughout the whole length of playing with this project. That variable can keep changing based on other inputs. In this case, it's an input from the user hitting the up arrow or the down arrow, which is going to cause that number to go up or down accordingly, and therefore the amount of time Scratch waits before changing his costume changes. So that's getting up into our higher grade level expectations. I believe that would fit with the grade 7 expectations as far as my interpretation of them. But it's certainly a great way to make things a little bit more interactive. So variables are the orange blocks, and to get started with them, you have to actually click Make a Variable. You give it a name. You can call it anything you like, something that kind of indicates what it's doing, makes more sense. And then you have these options here to show or hide the variable. You might want to show the variable if it was something like a score that was keeping count. But in this case, I didn't want people to see that number going up and down, so I hid it. It's happening there in the background, but nobody really knows that as they're playing it. And then the last blocks of code up here, which are also pretty simple, is just I use the home row keys on the keyboard, and as you hit the different keys, it plays different notes, kind of like playing a piano. And those are all music blocks. Music blocks by default don't show up along the side here. You have to actually click the extension and add the music blocks for them to show up. And then they end up right here. So that is kind of the walkthrough of this code. But while you're here, I wanted to kind of extend this and take it another step further. And I'm going to try to add another dancer to our party. So I'm going to come down here to choosing a sprite. And I'm going to conveniently go to the dance section. Now, the reason why these characters are under dance is because they have a lot of different costumes that when you change them makes it look like they're dancing. So you can kind of see a little preview when you hover over them. I kind of think that's cute. So let's add the ballerina. I'm going to drag her to be standing on the floor. And then with this ballerina, I can click over to costumes, and I can see she actually has 4 different costumes, which is neat. So I want to create kind of the same code structure that I had for Scratch the Cat. So I'm going to go back over to him. And I'm actually going to drag this bit of code into my backpack. So when I go back to the ballerina, I can reuse it. Now, I'm actually going to get rid of this bit right here. Hiding the variable's already been done by the code on Scratch the Cat. I don't need to do that again, so I can get rid of that. And same with setting the dance speed. It's already been set. I don't need to do that all over again. In fact, doing it again might confuse it. So I think just by snapping that together, that should be enough. But I'm not 100% sure, so let's test it out. Awesome. Okay, so now we have Scratch the Cat dancing and our ballerina dancing. Now I'm going to test the speed to see, hopefully our ballerina also speeds up or slows down depending on the speed of the music. Fun, eh? Alright, and we might as well add another character. So I'm actually going to put this code in the backpack now, since that's more what we wanted. I'm going to choose another one from our dance section. Alright. Now this dude is quite tall, so I'm going to change the size to 50%. That might be a bit too small, actually. 75. There we go. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to go down to my backpack, drag up that same code again. There we go. And then of course, as they're dancing, you can be playing your little song on the piano as well. So there we go. Now, what else could we do with this project? I challenge you to remix it and share back to the studio with something that you tried. See what you can figure out. And if you have any questions about variables, let me know, and I can do another video in the future to explain that more in depth if needed. Otherwise, thanks for joining in. Have fun, and I'll see you next time.